All right, let's see what's going on here. Oh my goodness. That's what's up. Man, I think that I don't know, my intro was kind of off. Maybe my signal is not working too well. Hopefully my signal is okay. If y'all if the signal is off, then I apologize. It shouldn't be messed up like that. And I am having so many challenges today. You would not believe it. Okay. All right. I'm trying to pull up some information that I wanted to talk about, but my phone is, I don't know, it's not acting right. All right. So I'll give you a few minutes to chop on and we'll see how it goes. Maybe that'll give me a chance to find this information. All right. But yeah, we're going live. Don't worry. All right. We're going live. We're going live. It's been a while since I went live. So I appreciate you guys popping on. All right. Anyway, most of you might be catching the replay, which is cool because this is kind of a last minute thing. I was like, hey, let me just jump on and see how it goes. It's a lot of information that I've been kind of reviewing. And as you know, if you don't know, I'm Coach Rashid, and I do delve into this crypto space, been doing it for a while. And I just try to keep up with the latest. And a lot of times, I'm talking about different projects, but today I just want to talk about the industry and a lot of information. Like I said, just scanning the internet, just trying to keep up with things. A lot of newsletters, lots of stuff, man, and there's so much information. And so I was listening to a couple of different people do podcasts and they do their own shows and things like that on YouTube, and they were just giving this conflicting information, and I'm just like, come on, this says this, then tomorrow you say that. And I said, you know what? Kill that. I just need to go on and kind of give you, here's what I know that's consistent, right? That I listened to the actual people that were involved in this conversation. And these are some of the things that they actually said. And if you want to see some information about, this topic that I'm going to talk about, one of the people, I literally posted their video in my video that I recorded yesterday or day before yesterday, where I was talking about um, really what's happening in 2025 and what's happening in 2026, and kind of bridging the gap between the two. And in my video that I talked about, I think it was yesterday. And man, was it yesterday? Anyway, maybe it was a couple of days ago. I actually focused on, in 2026, it is really going to be more about adoption and clarity. And why do I say that? Is because so many crypto enthusiasts and crypto, participants want to see some type of regulation. There's got to be something that brings us, onto one platform of regulation that says this is how we're going to function, because there's so many scams out there. There's so many people that are trying to take advantage. There's so many ways that um, one government will say, yes, you can do this. Then another one says you can't do that. You may be already doing business in one country and everything was fine. And now all of a sudden they create this regulation. Now things aren't fine. So it really, really causes a lot of headache. A lot of investment goes into building these companies, these tech companies. And when blockchain, became really the hot topic, a lot of companies, they shifted and they said, hey, look, blockchain is it. So let's go ahead and build this blockchain piece onto our code for, IT and so on and so forth. And when they did that, they were in the UK, or they may have been in Indonesia, or they may have been in Singapore, they may have been in, uh, Egypt, wherever. And then all of a sudden, bam, new regulation pops up to try to control, the issues with crypto and around blockchain and crypto and these different developments. And DeFi comes along and it really, really shakes things up. And then you throw stable coins in there, because the whole idea behind stable coins was slow down that fluctuation, right? So, Bitcoin being like the mother or the father of crypto came in, but it came in as an alternative to regular currency that we talk about. And so, with that alternative, you're going to have some fluctuations, right? What do you need? Okay. So, with those fluctuations, then when you want to send funds and you want to convert funds, there's going to be this difference in cost. So let me give it to you like this, right? And I always try to explain it in ways that people can understand it as simple as possible. When you are in one country and you need to get different currency, let's say you have pesos and you go to a country that uses pounds, right? Or if you have pounds and you go to a country that uses dollars. So you're going to have to convert that, and they're not one to one. So if they're not one to one, then somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. I mean, that's just the way it is, right? If it's one to one, everybody wins. There's no win win when it comes to converting money. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. Somebody has to pay a fee to use that money. So it's exactly the same thing where Bitcoin came on the scene. And if you wanted to take that Bitcoin and you wanted to send it over somewhere to use it or to convert it to dollars, then there was a fluctuation. Let's say you want to send $1,100 worth of Bitcoin, right, to an exchange or off an exchange to a wallet or whatever, or a platform or to a trading, platform, then you know that there's going to be some fluctuation, right? And so you would send 1,100 plus, right? Something, maybe 1,110 or 1,105, because you knew there's going to be some fluctuation. So stable coins became very, very, very critical or center to alleviating that problem. And a lot of things, I don't know if you use Exodus. Exodus is one of the most popular um, crypto wallets out there. So, you got Exodus, you got Trust Wallet, and of course, you got MetaMask, and you have Atomic Wallet, you got SafePal, Token Pocket, you got all these different wallets, right? You can even use Cash App. And when you use those wallets, if you are moving crypto, some of them will allow you to send exactly what you say, right? Kind of like with Gemini. Gemini does this. And then they'll take the fee off of from your wallet, right? So you always know that, hey, look, if I'm sending $1,000, if I use Ethereum tether, or if I use TRC tether, then I know that it's going to be 1,000, and they'll take the fee as an extra. So you don't have to worry if that's going to work. If that's not, do I need to shift to do it? I need to add another $2, $3. So these are some of the things that happen along the way. And so when you have this issue, then you need something to balance it out. And so Tether came along to try to do that. USDC came along and tried to do that. But then, in addition to that, it's based on the dollar, right? So when you're in another country like Britain or England or whatever, and they say, "Hey, look, MICA, being the market." Um, I thought I wrote down what MICA. Everybody, MICA is the regulatory body for crypto in the European Union. I was about to say UK, but European Union. So, which includes inside of the UK and Britain and France and all those places. And so over there, you can use USDC, but you can't use USDT. And it's funny because that was something that I was kind of referring to is somewhere along the line, right? Everything was working fine. But then there was just so much confusion behind the scenes when exchanges start acting up or different networking platforms act up and crypto, it's not being utilized or not being, the operation is not working like it's supposed to. Those bad actors cause governments to step in and say, hey, we got to fix this problem. And that's where some of the guardrails start to be put on. And so for some reason, which I have not dug into, Tether, for some reason, you may know, like I said, I haven't dug into it. I just heard them talking about it. And when that regulation went online in European Union, then USDC was okay. But for some reason, the Tether wasn't okay. And so they had to fight kind of get back into the program. Now, what does that do? We're talking regulatory bodies. We're talking, Clarity Act. We're talking about the U.S. and all these other countries that do have these particular regulatory systems trying to regulate crypto in some form or fashion. Then we do realize that they're going to have to figure out, how do we balance this out, right? We don't want to restrict, people from having the right to have a system that works, but are we going to put our current financial system in jeopardy if we allow this to happen in the way that it's going? And so I think there's a balance between the two. Where do we go from here, right? Talk to the banks, and we talk to, hold on. All right. So one of the things that I was trying to say, and I apologize for that disturbance. Um, there's got to be guardrails in different new developments when it comes to things like financial systems, right? We know that financial systems are directly being impacted when somebody decides to create an alternative currency that just hasn't been there before. Now, before, meaning hasn't been in this particular in the database. Of course, there was a barter system. Of course, there was a promissory notes. All these things. Trading back and forth, value for value. But when you use a electronic system, when you use a database, when you trade data as value, as confidence, as currency, that's new, right? And so when it starts to pick up, when it starts to catch on, that's when the government say, "Oh, wait a minute, this is a problem," because we see the writing on the wall. So let's fast forward. All right. Yes, there's the Clarity Act. That's kind of the last part that arrived. Um, Previously, Dubai was kind of the hub for new business, and a lot of the crypto companies basically knew that there was a lot of money in Dubai, Middle East, in general, and Dubai being the open, Dubai being the place where they want people to come in and feel comfortable that they can start a business, you can buy a property, you can do all these things. Excuse me. And so, with that being the case, why not open the doors to being, hey, let's create some environment, some opportunity in maybe in the free trade zone where you don't have to pay taxes anyway, and you don't really have a lot of the regulations, and the foreign business can really open up and create opportunities for not only the local community in the country, but hey, maybe they can make it an international business and really help Dubai and the UAE grow. And instead of depending on oil, we can depend on tourism and new business if we become a little more flexible. And so that's why traditionally Dubai literally was the first one to create some type of regulation, some type of policy, if you will, around virtual or digital assets um, being used or created from um, a Dubai business, so to speak, right? Even if it's a foreign, company, but somebody that started the business in Dubai, you could start a crypto company, you could start a blockchain company, and you can create your tokens or coins, and you could actually run it from there. Now, initially, just like pretty much a lot of businesses, they create a virtual office in Dubai and never set foot there, right? Not initially, anyway. And they could grow an online business using a Dubai address. So that was originally, kind of what was going on. And it goes on to this day. But now Dubai has a lot more regulations and things like that to protect from criminals, basically, that want to not be in a country and create an office all virtual and say that this is where their office is. And then when somebody decides to go there and visit, which a lot of us, have done before in the past, we go visit some of these places that say they have a headquarters, and you go there and there's a door, there's a address, and there's an office space that's being rented by somebody that's not even in the country, but there's some young foreigner sitting in there that's an expat working just to monitor that office, and that's it. Like, there's no business going on in that space, right? But online, this is their address, and they have this flourishing business online, which is pretty much all fake, and basically ready to, scam people and run away. And so the premise that I've laid for you today is, why do we have a VARA Act in Dubai? Why do we have the MiCA, regulations in the EU? And why do we have the advent of the Genius Act, which includes the Clarity Act for digital assets in the US? This is really what prompted all of that. Now, there are multiple articles, like so many articles out there. And I want to show you a few articles that talk about um, exactly what I'm saying. So let me go over here. Let's see if I can pull up a few of those. Um, so we're talking about the Clarity Act, right? All right, so let me see if I can find some info on that. Because the Clarity Act is a very popular thing. All right, let's go here. This is what I want to show you here. All right, so it says the White House may pull support for Clarity Act after Coinbase standoff. That's interesting, isn't it? It's very interesting. Because when I see this, right, I'm like, wait a minute. They have been pushing for the Genius Act. Then they come up with the actual Clarity Act to clarify what is going to happen with crypto and blockchain and these type of activities, in the US. So when the president says at the beginning of his term, his second term anyway, says, hey, we want to be the you know, crypto capital of the world, right? Launches its own coin and makes a couple of people billionaires overnight. You're like, oh my gosh, this is great, right? So that concept seems to make sense. So then we have a couple other issues that arrived as well. Um, let's see what this says here. Hopefully you can see this. All right, let's see if you can see this one. All right. And so there are other articles. One that talks about the Senate and crypto heavyweight Signal Clarity Act is still alive despite Coinbase revolt. So we're like, wait a minute, Coinbase? What is the deal? What's the deal? What's going on with Coinbase, right? So, so if you look at my video, like I said, from yesterday or the other day, it's up now anyway on my channel. It talks about in 2026 what happened. What did Coinbase? What did Brian Armstrong? What did he say? What happened? What's the situation? Why is the talk right now that the Clarity Act is in jeopardy and blah blah blah, right? So those are some of the things that's going on, and people are kind of like, "Ooh, this is interesting." And so we take it a little further because I did, like I said, there's an actual video. There's a short, like a 1 minute, that has Brian Armstrong explaining what his position is on that. But I'm going to give you a little more insight on that because it just makes sense, right? Because you kind of want to know, what is the deal with this Clarity Act? Why is it an issue? And I'll get into some more of that in a minute. But what I actually did watch a video by a guy. I'm not going to pull it up now, but and he had like a whole different take on this regulation in the US, this Genius Act, the Clarity Act, and the way he broke it down was like, oh my goodness. Like, if things don't come together in the right way, then we're actually going to be treated like bank customers, like literally. And so there will be no difference from a regulatory perspective of how the banks treat their customers and how the exchanges will be required to treat people that deal in crypto. Like it was like, oh, wait a minute, this is not what crypto was supposed to be. But it is definitely becoming more centralized and mainstream in a way that crypto enthusiasts did not foresee and was not looking for. And so when the president decides to get like all these industry experts, from the Coinbase to the Gemini, the Winklevoss twins, and the Brian Armstrongs, and the Galaxy Digital, Mike Novogratz, and MicroStrategy guys. You got the T7X guys. You got all these people that are there to help build, this great regulation that supports crypto, but it actually has a lobby that's stronger than crypto. And I'll let you kind of get a glimpse of that. Let's go through this particular article. So I want to give you an idea of what this this is talking about. So let's go down here real quick because you kind of want to know, what did Brian Armstrong, what was his issue with this, right? And so here's what um, here's what I can say is the U.S. Senate has postponed a vote on the much anticipated Clarity Act. Coinbase pulled its support, arguing that the current draft heavily favors traditional banks while imposing tough restrictions on key crypto innovations, including bans on stable coin yield features. That's a big deal. When you're staking your funds, your USDT, you can earn yield like 4 to 5 or 6% or whatever or higher. Well, they got some issues with that. The banks are only paying 0.5%, and now you're talking this crypto is paying 4 or 5%, which I mean it's not a lot in the big picture, but it's way more than what the banks are paying. So their fear is, wait a minute, if you guys allow crypto to come in and perform this way, people are going to pull their money out of the banks and put them directly into crypto, right? So that's been the fear of the banks, and the banks are heavily in there trying to fight this. So tokenized equities, you're talking same problem. Most DeFi activities effectively stifling the industry's growth rather than providing a clear regulatory guidance that they were expecting. So of course, Brian Armstrong said, hold up. Even the XRP or Ripple's CEO, they're already trying to be closer to the function of a bank. So they're not arguing with them. They're not out there fighting it. They are pretty much going along with it, which is unfortunate because Brian Armstrong literally is like on his own. But there are people that argue that since Brian Armstrong, the company went public, they already have inside, they already are helping banks to convert, helping banks to tokenize. They're helping banks anyway. So they're making it sound like, and I don't get this, but they're making it sound like Brian Armstrong, Coinbase is already inside. So what are you arguing, right? And so they're trying to make it sound like, this is one of the podcasts, ladies basically was trying to make it sound like Brian Armstrong is not being sincere in his argument because he's already on the inside with the banks, right? Or with the government as well. But when I listen to him, he looks very sincere that, wait a minute, if we can do what we're doing, right, helping the industry, the financial industry come closer to the blockchain side, then I'm with you. But if we're going to basically cut our legs off, then wait a minute. This is not what we sign up for. So I think you can do both, right? Um, and so that's why I felt like I needed to come on and talk about it, because the people that are putting the information out there, I don't believe that they're giving it out in the most sincere way. I think they're taking sides when they present the information. I'm not taking a side because I'm a crypto enthusiast and I'm gonna be always, on the crypto side. So ain't no gray area there for me. But the banks aren't going anywhere. So the banks aren't going to lose out if they play ball. And so Brian Armstrong, his whole point literally is the fact that I get it, banks, but at the end of the day, if you want to play in this sandbox, be part of the Clarity Act, then you're gonna have to change something. You're gonna have to pay people um, a better yield, and that's where the competition is supposed to create a better outcome, right? That's what competition is set up to do, is to create a better outcome. And so that's really why he stepped back and says, no, if y'all don't change something, then I'm not going to be part of this. And guess what? If the Clarity Act is stalled, the industry continues to flourish. They don't have to change anything because they're following the rules as they are, right? And we'll talk about some of the companies that got beat up, but then they got back up and won their cases against the SEC because there were no rules in place. Um, and so, in this article on Cointelegraph, the Clarity Act stalling is positive for the crypto industry. So you see how that evolves into, well, hey guys, if y'all don't get it together, if you don't really listen to what Brian Armstrong is saying in representing the crypto industry in the right way, if you start to reduce the the yield that people can get on their crypto, then this is not what we want to support, right? This is not moving the industry forward like the complete financial industry. We're gonna go backward if you do this. And so basically they're saying over regulation of the crypto industry would negatively impact markets. It will gut the decentralized finance. And guess what? It's status quo. Nothing changes. We're going to still be doing the same thing we're doing. And so that's not why we came to the table. But the interesting thing about it overall, as I read through a lot of this previously, um, they're still at the table trying to work things out. And that's where I think people are disingenuous when they talked about Brian Armstrong of Coinbase, basically stepping out. He's not stepping out to say, look, I'm not supporting this. He's saying, I don't support it as it is. Even when Micah was being passed, they talked about that taking a long time in order to get it across the table, to get it across the finish line. So it takes multiple revisions in order to get to some clarity, as they will with the clarity bill. Now, basically they're saying the stalling of the clarity crypto market structured bill in the United States could ultimately benefit the crypto industry, according to market analysts who warned that the legislation in its current form is over regulating decentralized finance in these markets. So when they talk about Coinbase withdrawing support from the bill on Wednesday, Brian Armstrong posted listing several concerns with the most recent version of the bill, right? And it's a valid thing. Um, and so another comment here is, I think if the bill were approved in its current form, right, it would have had a very bad impact on the markets in general. So now all the parties are aligned to continue the discussion. And it reminds the gentleman that's talking here, it says remind him of the markets in crypto assets, which is the MiCA regulation, markets in crypto assets. Right, I got to remember that regulation in Europe. It was a lot of revisions, and they finally basically agreed on what it should say. And so here is like literally what Brian Armstrong is saying, just so you have clarity, right, of his lack of support for what they already have. He needs to see some revisions. So basically, what he is saying is, after reviewing the Senate banking draft text over the last 48 hours, Coinbase unfortunately cannot support the bill as it's written. There are too many issues, including a de facto ban on tokenized equities. How can he support that when he is all about, supporting tokenization of stocks, bonds, and these type of securities? DeFi prohibitions, giving the government unlimited access to your financial records and removing your right to privacy. Can't have it. Erosion of the CFTC's authority, stifling innovation and making it subservient to the SEC. So they're trying to basically put so many layers of regulation on top of the regulation. Draft amendments that would kill rewards on stablecoins, allowing banks to ban their competition. That right there is massive. Like he talked about that in a video, and it is a massive problem. So at the end of the day, he says, this is where a lot of the people miss this part. We appreciate all the hard work by members of the Senate to reach a bipartisan outcome, but this version would be materially worse than the current status quo. We'd rather have no bill than a bad bill. Hopefully, we can all get to a better draft. He is definitely not pulling out. He said, we'll keep fighting for all Americans and for the economic freedom. Crypto needs to be treated on a level playing field with the rest of financial services so we can build this industry in a safe and trusted way in America. What is wrong with that? Right? Nothing's wrong with that. But that is what he is fighting for. And I think we could all agree that that makes sense. That makes sense, right? So I don't understand why some people have misrepresented what he was actually saying. To me, that makes sense. All right. So I want to shift right now to a couple of things. Before I make that shift, I want to bring up something that is kind of lead me into the next conversation. Um, we know that XRP, right, is is a massive, massive crypto ecosystem, if you will. I personally am not that big on XRP. I know a lot of people that are. A lot of people buy and they just hold on to it. They buy more of it because they believe, hey, it's going to explode. It's going to do its thing. Got it. Well, one of the things that I did follow when XRP was going through their case with the SEC. Well, back I think last year, maybe the year before, SEC was basically um, put a hit out, quote unquote, on the legal side for XRP to, hey, look, XRP, you can't be expanding like that. You can't get involved in mainstream finance and traditional finance because you're crypto, and we think you're crypto. If you're going to do that, hey, maybe it's a security. And that was the term that the SEC was going after, like every crypto, out there. They were chasing down anything that started to become popular, they would go after. LTC, Ethereum, Bitcoin, everything that they could go after. If there was a person or a company that they could go after and get, they were chasing them down. And so the SEC, basically sued XRP, brought him to court, took him to court and says, you have a security. And XRP was like, you got to be kidding me. We don't have a security. Guess what? After like a couple of years or so of fighting with them, the SEC basically lost their case. And that's when people thought, oh my gosh, XRP is about to go to the moon. And it didn't do that. So XRP has not become the moonshot crypto that a lot of people have thought it would be. I hold some, but I don't hold a lot of it because I don't think that that's the direction that they want to go. And they have proven with their XRP ledger, with the Ripple Foundation, they have proven that they are looking to support actual business transactions, right? And so the more value is in the actual company, the foundation, versus the crypto. And it doesn't represent properly the extent or the value of what they're doing literally for crypto in the bigger sense. If you don't know, then Ripple has an actual blockchain, but it's a hybrid. It is not a what we call pure blockchain. It is a hybrid. So they use a mixture of coding and database, AI, because they're really trying their best to qualify as a bank, literally a bank, right? That can be regulated and they can actually perform. It gives them certain benefits and opens certain doors, and so that's really their focus. But you know what XRP has done? They created an avenue to open up tokenization at a whole nother level. Before anybody else, the XRP ledger became functional and attractive to countries and establishments that wanted to tokenize real world assets. And Dubai was definitely leading in that particular sense. There are other ones. Dubai did it in real estate, but others were using it for fine arts and commodities and things like that. But gold has always been in that space as well. But legitimately, real estate really has been the best target for RWA cases. Now, in addition to XRP basically being taken to court by the SEC, if you remember, Debtbox, right? Debtbox was another company that was taken to court as well because Debtbox, a couple of years ago, Debtbox was actually the leader. I'm talking out of all of the crypto companies and networks and platforms and all the things that we saw coming and going, the good ones and the bad ones. Deadbox was literally the first one that took real world asset like RWA that we know. They actually had gold mines that they showed people, and they had black gold, which is oil. And they would actually take the members out to Nebraska or Oklahoma, wherever they had these, Nevada, and they would say, this is the actual oil rig that's pulling oil out of the ground that is supporting our cryptocurrency. So when you purchase a node and you actually are earning crypto, you're earning crypto based upon that physical real asset of oil coming out of the ground. So that was the first time I've ever seen an actual company doing exactly what we always wanted to see. Right? Welcome everybody. So Deadbox a couple of years ago, based out of Utah, they actually were fulfilling the real world asset support for the cryptocurrency. Before that, we had really never seen a company, crypto in this blockchain space, that actually legitimately had something other than speculation for their crypto. And so these are some of the things that really brought the Genius Act and the Clarity Act into the forefront. Like there was a need for this. And guess what? Some of the millionaires and the multimillionaires that were part of the Debt Box project, they went through that whole SEC rigmarole and came out on top. So SEC went after XRP, they lost. SEC went after Debtbox, they lost, right? And a lot of other, agencies and crypto companies had to deal with that as well. I mean, a lot of you probably seen it in the news. You probably seen it on some of these websites that track scams or whatever. Just because they track scams don't mean that all these programs are scams. It just means that the regulatory bodies felt like there was something to look at because of maybe some complaints and therefore had some issues, right? And so we could talk about Novatech and all this. Novatech, I think it was a good company. But when you get people complaining or, things like that because of maybe the trading or, maybe the pay is different. I don't know. I wasn't in Novatech, so I don't know, the extent of those issues. But, when that happens, they get on the radar and therefore they get put on websites and say that they're a scam, and then people go after that. So, but most of it's not true. It's just that there may be some bad actors in the company as members, but it doesn't make the whole thing. I was part of One Coin, One Life, right? And that was, out of I think Bulgaria was the headquarters on that one. I didn't see a problem with what they were doing internally, but a lot of people said, "Oh, they don't have a blockchain. They don't have a real blockchain," right? And that was a big issue. And so as time went on, yes, it became, some problems. And so they just cut off the US. They basically said, if you're in the US, look, regulations, this, that, and the other, too much pressure. They're requiring us to change this, that, and the other. And so basically they just cut us off. And you talking millions of dollars that was in there from the US. And so a lot of people, got lawyers and sued them and did that, all these things. So I've seen this on multiple sides. And so when I saw that the Clarity Act, that was basically kind of an offshoot of the Genius Act, came along, and I'm part of, like I said, TSC, which is the Trusted Smart Chain, which is representing T7X, which is one of the only regulated exchanges that is set up to convert RWAs for like traditional companies to convert to go on chain or on the blockchain. Then we see that these guys actually won an award because they're literally the only regulated by the SEC and the regulatory bodies blockchain out there for this particular exchange. And the only companies that can go on to T7X exchange and be offered as tokenization is one that went through a Series A regulatory confirmation with the SEC. And so no other project out there requires that. And so they actually, was at Mar-a-Lago. They were part of the conversation with the president when he was talking to all of the big wigs about creating the Genius Act and the Clarity Act so that, crypto in the US could really be the leader. And so just being involved in some of these organizations and trying to understand what is the outcome, right? What is going to happen? And so we're seeing that come to fruition because some of the guys that run these new projects, they've been through the fire. And so they know, hey, we got to make sure the regulatory side is in place before we even push our project out there because they were part of the ones being sued and they won. So they know how that process works. Now they're part of the solution to create clarity in the crypto, ecosystem, in the crypto environment in the US. So we do see some progress there. But as I said before, um, Brian Armstrong, as part of the groups, one of the leaders as far as crypto in the US, has the Coinbase exchange. They have really said, hey, until something changes in that Clarity Act, when it goes to the Senate, you got to change these things. You cannot allow the banks to get the lion's share of the say so and start to reduce the amount of yield that we can give to our clients that have crypto staked on our platforms. They are trying to stop that from happening. So I believe some of the people out there that's talking about Brian Armstrong and these type of things, they're saying it in a way that's negative, but he's trying to protect, the crypto side, even though he does have contracts with big business on the traditional side. I ain't mad at him. He should, but he's helping to open the door for crypto to have some guardrails that benefits us versus I think takes away from us. Anyway, but like I said, XRP is a whole different animal when it comes to RWA and tokenization. Like massive. Like if you really wanted to understand the next level of how we even got to tokenization, how we got the real world assets and that advanced blockchain evolution, XRP was instrumental in facilitating that behind the scenes. It's been phenomenal, right? And so there are some things about XRP I just want to highlight before I go, just so you guys can kind of get a better understanding of why when you see my videos lately, and especially in 2026, it's all about real world assets and crypto clarity with tokenization. Tokenization is the actual vehicle that is taking the blockchain into the future. It is absolutely what is happening right now. And one of the most popular and the most profitable um, assets within the RWA category is real estate tokenization because it's tangible. This is what's been missing from the crypto industry. Everything has been speculation up to this point. And now there's something solid, and that's the tokenization piece. And real world assets and real actual physical property says it best. And that's why I want to close out with this piece of it. So I'm going to take you to, let me show you a couple of articles here that really kick this thing off. Let me see if I can find, whoa. Where are we? Man, I don't know if I can't even see my own stuff. This is crazy. Oh, this is too funny. Let me see if that's it. That's the Clarity Act. So let's go Clarity. Okay, I saw that one. I think it's here. All right. Can you see that one? I don't know if you can see that one. Okay, I think you can see that one, right? So 2026, right? What to expect from real world asset tokenization. Real world asset tokenization. And so in this article, they talk about just different types of real world assets, which there's a lot. Excuse me. Utility layer growth for tokenized assets. I mean, there's so much, right? So I can go on and on and on that piece, but I want to highlight um, a couple of articles that came up. This one right here is very interesting as well. And this just gives you like, why do I talk about real world asset? Why do I talk about real estate tokenization so much these days? Oh my gosh. Look, another article right here. It says expensive real estate putting you off from investing. Blockchain-backed property tokenization could be an alternative. What you should know, right? Blockchain-backed property tokenization. This is something over a year ago, they were already saying this is where you want to take a look. They were already talking about that. So when I talk about XRP, you're probably like, why is XRP like XRPL really is what we're talking about, not just XRP, but XRPL, right? The actual ledger. So what XRP did, they didn't just build an ecosystem, they built the XRP and they built a ledger. See, you see what I'm saying? That's why I say it's not a blockchain in a pure sense, it's a hybrid blockchain. So they took XRP blockchain piece and added a separate ledger. Most of the blockchains have a consistent layer one, layer two, but this one has its blockchain and it has a separate ledger. So you have security on top of security, but in addition to that, you have a separate rail that you can put other things on easily, right? And easier than some of the other blockchains out there, except for maybe Canton or Ethereum. They really have revolutionized this thing. But XRP is just way up there, way advanced when it comes to preparing their blockchain for these real world assets. And so that's why Coinbase reported that XRP Ledger is a star in Ripple Control Alt Delete deal to tokenize Dubai real estate. So Control Alt Delete, I know it's kind of weird, ain't it? I'm sorry, it's not Control Alt Delete. It's Control Alt, which is the actual blockchain company that is supporting the Dubai real estate industry. They are helping to tokenize. So if you want to purchase property, you have to, one, use XRP, which is part of the deal, and it's going to be handled by Control Alt, right? So that's kind of how that works out. So they are leading in all aspects of that. Here, this gives you just a little more information about that. XRP Ledger powers a $16 billion Dubai real estate revolution. What's next? I'll tell you what's next, right? Here's the transition to what's next. We think that, yes, this is powerful, and it is powerful, but there's something that is just as powerful. This is on, let me show you this one. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? Is it popping up? It may not be. So I'm gonna have to, let me try something else here. All right, it's okay. I can find another way to do this. Let me go here. Yeah, let me do it like this. All right, give me 1 second and I'm going to take you back over here. All right, cool. All right, we're gonna stop that. All right, hopefully you can see me now. Anyway, that's what happens when I use StreamYard. I get like confused. You know, Zoom is a pretty straightforward deal, but yeah, this one is like, what? Where is that article at I was just looking at? Huh. Okay, we'll just do this. Okay. Let's go there. I don't know if it's up yet. Oh, okay. Yeah. I was just trying to make sure I was logged in. Okay. There we go. All right. Okay. So when I show you this, I think you're going to understand why this makes sense. All right. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's crazy using StreamYard, and it's like I can't, you don't get to see yourself like you do with Zoom. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, I'm gonna close this out with that transition. Like I said, XRP Ledger, they created an opening for the advent of tokenization, and real estate has been the real foundation for bringing this particular RWA category, if you will, like really leading in the evolution of blockchain. Like it is absolutely what it's doing, right? So anyway, I hope that you got some value out of what we're looking at today, and hopefully, this right here will give you more insight to what's going on, kind of on the regulatory side, and why do I believe that real world assets and real estate tokenization is the key to the future of this industry. And if you want to literally be on the right side of the future of this industry and see things work in the way that it's supposed to work, then I honestly believe that you definitely want to be a part of the real world asset tokenization of real estate. And that's going to take you and your business to the next level. All right. And so eEstates is a leading company when it comes to real estate tokenization. And it's just a very simple platform that you can actually connect with somebody like myself or some of the other people maybe in your area that are digital real estate agents under this particular organization. We are certified, qualified to introduce you to tokenized real estate, right? And so this is just an example of one of the properties that they offer. This one's a property in Miami. It's a beautiful apartment. You can actually invest as little as $10, right? As little as $10, and you can actually start earning from this property. How cool is that? Right. And yeah, we're not saying that you're gonna retire, from a $10 investment. That's not the point. What we're saying is if you want a proof of concept, if you want to say, I've never been involved in this, let me try this out. Let me see what it does. You can do that. $10 won't hurt you. Check it out, see it work. And then you can say, you know what, I kind of like this. I might put 1,000 in there. Totally up to you because you could put any amount that you want based on your budget. You may say, I like this Miami apartment. I don't care about nothing else. I'm making about 0.3% a day. Look, 3% a day gives you about 6% a month. I can tell you with a straight face, you're definitely not going to get that with a bank. You're definitely going to get that with no credit union. You're not going to get it anywhere in the traditional side. So even though this is our minimal, this is our lowest performing property, lowest because this is one of those proof of concepts that was generated for our customers and our members. It is not the least of the properties. It's just the lowest performing one because they wanted to give everybody an opportunity to at least get in and taste what is so delicious when it comes to tokenized property. So this is a place that you can start. If that's something that you just wanted to try out and see if it works for you, um, highly recommend that if you are looking to invest in tokenized property, then at a minimum, this is pretty much the medium, right? This is kind of that middle ground. And then we have a lot of people that actually say, look, I got about 5,000 saved up and I want to put it somewhere. And we say, okay, you know what? We can offer you this particular villa in the Los Angeles area. We're told that it's in Bel Air. We do have people that physically have been there. They know exactly where it is. They've checked it out. And so all that's validated, contracts, we got the paperwork, we got all that good stuff. So if somebody wanted to, put a $5,000 deposit into that, you're getting tokenized real estate, tokenized ownership. So you're not purchasing the whole property. You're just coming in and saying, you know what, this property is valued at 800,000. Okay, great. That is amazing. So I want, actually it's about 8 million because each, each token, right, is $10. So if it's 866,000 tokens, so you're looking at about an 8 million valuation. So if you wanted to purchase it outright, you got $8 million, then hey, go for it. But if you, like most of us out here saying, look, I may not be able to participate in buying a apartment complex or a commercial building, and earning, 10% a year off of that. But hey, I can do 5,000 and in a beautiful villa like this in Los Angeles. And you put that money in, you're gonna earn about $640 a month. And this is all on autopilot. You get paid on holiday. It doesn't matter. It is on business days, holidays, you get paid, right? Every single day. And so as a member, you can actually see that we have an estimate for you here where you can see how much per day, you can see how much per month, and you're going to break even in about 7 months. If you are putting your money into a CD, if you're putting your money into some type of government financial, asset manager or investment, show me how long it's going to take you to break even. When are you going to get the amount that you deposited in profits from that particular account? If you can show me that you can earn back your deposit of $5,000 into a CD at your bank within 7 months, then let's have that conversation, right? And I'll come do what you're doing. But if you can't do that and you like your money to work for you, and then you want to make profits off of that in the shortest amount of time, then come talk to me and I can show you exactly what you're going to be making between 0.5 and 0.7% a day on this particular property. And we have multiple properties out there that will pay you more than this based upon whatever deposit that you choose. And just to give you, you know, an example of that, um, let's look here. Let's say you want to maybe invest in a commercial property. Okay. Commercial property. And you can say, I got about 15,000 that I've saved up and I would like to invest it somewhere. Let's say you put in 15,000 on this property. You're going to earn about $106 a day. Okay. That's going to net you about 22.36 per month. In 6 months, you're going to have your 15,000 back, and everything else from that 6 months to 18 months, 12 months. So a whole nother year, you're not going to have to pay out anymore. Every business day, you're going to earn $106 every single day. Every month, you can see a clear 22.36 average coming back to you that you can withdraw at any time. Which financial institution that you have your money in right now, which one is doing that for you? If you don't have that happening right now, then I definitely will implore that you contact somebody that is talking about tokenized real estate, or you contact me and I will help you get on and make this happen for yourself. Because as a digital real estate agent with eStates, this is what we do every single day. All right. So I just wanted to close out with that because tokenization is where it's at. Real estate tokenization, more specifically, is where it's at. And we are doing it every single day. All right. So, Clarity Act, putting rails around this thing, giving us some type of assurance that crypto is moving in the right direction. It's got some some eyes on it. And so hopefully that's going to pay dividends in the end. We know that Brian Armstrong has some issues with it. He is protecting the crypto industry by voicing, that opinion about it. We hope that the Senate listens. We hope that all of the crypto experts out there sit down at the table, get this thing right, and so that we all benefit from it for the long term. All right. So if you got any questions, got any comments, definitely, drop those in and I'll be happy to take a look at that and I'll happily respond as well. All right. So, hey, this has been exciting. This has been a quick hour of crypto, tokenization, Clarity Act, putting guardrails in 2026 around our crypto vision for the future. Like I said, get in touch with me. I'm Coach Rashid. I'm I am going to leave it there and we'll be in touch. All right. It was a pleasure and I hope to see you on the other side. All right. Peace. Y'all take care.